Hey guys, it's the beginning of the year 2024 and I'm really excited about it. But you know what? Before we hurl ourselves into the future, let us slide back into the past and take a look at some of our most interesting episodes.
That money is gone. You're not going to get it back. Just end it now.
To me, it would make a lot more sense if everybody's credit was frozen as a default.
Why does this resonate? Because it was designed to.
But in reality, we all can be targeted because all forms of deception take advantage of how we think and reason by default in naturally good ways.
Will there be churros, though? Because I feel like in 2024, I want to eat a lot of churros.
And with that, welcome to What the Hack, a show about hackers, scammers, and the people they go after. I'm Adam Levin.
I'm Beau Friedlander.
And I'm Travis Taylor.
This is the first time we're 120 some odd episodes in, and I can no longer pick favorites.
Yeah, and the guests we had were extremely varied.
Absolutely. I mean, think of it. We ran the gamut from animals to romance to big crime, tech, privacy. That's quite an expansive view.
Animals? I don't remember any animals.
Animals. Well, we had the kitten lady and the puppy scam.
Oh, that's right.
I know we put this in terms of what our favorite episodes are, but, you know, some of these things that we talked about were pretty gruesome, ugly, heart-wrenching. So it's more the episodes that stood out.
For sure. Several of the stories this year revolved around romance scams. What was your take on the romance scams this year, Adam?
Well, I mean, you had certain situations where people lost their entire life savings.
Even though we touched on romance scams for several episodes, none of the romance scams were exactly the same. They were extremely varied. The tactics used by the scammers were varied. And the way that the guests that we had on were impacted were also completely different in each circumstance.
And many of the people who get tricked by these romance scammers, they become addicted to them.
Yeah, that was actually one of the really striking things about the episode with April, whose mom was addicted to her scammer.
So let's just go back over a little bit of the story here again, and that is your mom finds out she has ovarian cancer. Understandably, she's feeling lonely. She turns to online dating.
I remember laying on the couch watching TV. She sent me the picture of him and said, I've been dating online and this is the man I've met.
And how long did it take before he started to ask for money?
That was probably 8 months or so. She ended up giving him $350,000.
Whoa.
And I didn't realize it was $350,000 until after she died. We got a hold of her phone and we went through all the text messages and all the lies she told. We thought that were lies. We confirmed that it was all lies. Just like a drug addict would lie to their family. It just gets so ugly. These victims turn into people that you don't recognize anymore.
Well, and what happened, if you think about it, it's both sides of an investment. You have the scammer who's making the investment because he or she thinks there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, which in this case was the case. And then you have the victim who is, if you need help, I'm here to help you, because they're investing in their end of the relationship because they wanted to go the distance.
So, Adam, I have to say that if you asked me for money, I wouldn't hesitate to give it to you because I know you're good for it. And I think that's a big part of how these scammers work. They always are the banker, the diamond mine owner. It does seem that one feature of this is a rich person who somehow is not liquid and needs help. Is that always the case, April?
Always the case. And I think that they've noticed that mom was a widow. See, she just got money from
Life insurance, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that happened to your mom. Your mom just kind of walked into it, although she found him, he found her. Do we know how that started?
He found her on Plenty of Fish. But you know, one thing I'm still grappling with, being angry at my mom. And right before this interview today, I was thinking about it. You know, looking back on my life, the mistakes I've made in my life all involved my heart and men. And so I try to keep that in mind when I'm remembering what happened and being angry at her, that, I've made a lot of mistakes in that department too. So that's for my own mental health.
If I had all the money back I ever spent on sending flowers to people who weren't interested in me, I would be a very wealthy man right now. I'd be able to buy a new truck. I gotta ask, so what happened when your mom realized she'd been scammed? Did she stop sending him money? I assume she did, but was there any attempt to get that money back?
Well, that part of the problem with, once they figure out that they are being scammed, they think that they're smart enough that they can out-scam the scammer. So she kept talking to him so she could get that money back. And I told her, that money is gone. You're not going to get it back. Just end it now. And she would not.
Oh, then what happened?
So then she became a money mule. Even if you don't have any money, they still have things that they can do with you. And that is that they've taken the money that they're getting from other victims and they want to run it through you and have you run it through other bank accounts and different things, gift cards and things, to make it look more legitimate. And she became a money mule.
What was it? What did they have her doing in terms of them? How did they get the money to her, and what were they asking her to do?
They would open up bank accounts and close them right away once she got the money, and sent them to another bank. And then they would do weird things like send her a computer, and then they'd have her sell the computer and then send the money. It was just, she always had money coming in and going out somewhere.
So how long did that go on before this thing finally ended?
Let's see, from the beginning of the scam to the end, it was 2 years, because right when the pandemic hit is when she died. If she would not have died, she still would have been doing it.
I could see it happening. I've seen it with my friends in codependent relationships with people who were really bad for them. They accept behavior and situations that are just not acceptable. But the way that woman became addicted to her scammer, it was like watching somebody, might as well be hitting a crack pipe.
One of the other ones that stood out to me was Brian Denny, because he wasn't necessarily the victim of a scam, but scammers kept on using his likeness.
So how did you first discover that you were unknowingly involved in a scam?
Well, it was like a bucket of cold water. It was all at once. Really. I was just leaving the Army. I was updating my LinkedIn profile, as a lot of people do. I'd never had one. And so I got a contact very quickly from a lady in Canada. And she said, "Hey, I'd like to talk. I'm looking at your profile." And I was naive enough still. So I said, yes. I said, "Here's my phone number. If you'd like to talk, give me a call." And I really, quite frankly, I just assumed it was all about a job or something they were looking for an Army guy to do. And she reached out and said, "Hey, I think we've had a conversation over the last couple of weeks." I'm like, "Nope, I hadn't been talking to anybody." And I asked her to explain, and she said, "Well, you and I have been talking, and I'm going to send you some pictures." She sent me several pictures that I recognized as me off of Facebook, and some Army photos that the Army had taken of me when I was deployed. And then she said, "I'm going to send you a pair of tickets." She sent me plane tickets that had my name on them, where I was flying into Montreal. She said, "You're supposed to be in Syria right now."
Now, I can't imagine that this woman didn't sound somewhat intense at this point. Sounds like she was put through the mill a little bit. She was contacting you essentially because she felt you were a scoundrel. Am I right?
I think she was trying to put the pieces together. I think she had been told by her daughter, "Hey, this isn't real. You're not talking to this guy." And her daughter went on LinkedIn, found my image, and said, "This is the guy that you're talking to that says he's talking to you, but I'm sure it's not that guy." And she reached out. In fact, she was quite decent about it. She quickly came around to the, "Yep, I've been scammed," without a lot of evidence, without me having to go to some strong links to explain that to her. And And a lot of people don't get there that quickly. But yeah, she put it together pretty quick. And she said, go to Facebook, put your name in a search bar and see what happens. And I did. And there were double digits, my pictures and fake profiles that came up.
Yeah, he was the victim of a scam, though. He was just a different sort of victim. He really should just have sued for name, image, and likeness. And, the scammer should have been giving him a piece of their take. Now, he was also a very honest guy and a law and order guy. So obviously he's not going to do that. And he just emerges a scammer, a maquette for the person that everybody's looking for.
And he and his family took an enormous amount of grief from. I mean, imagine you come in the house and your spouse comes, you say, "I got another call that you're having an affair with so and so." It's like, no, I'm not.
Well, that's where the addiction thing comes into play again too, because if he's saying this isn't accurate, this isn't correct, some of the people that were getting strung along by scammers refused to believe that. They refused to believe him or his wife that was a phony profile online. And I thought that was just fascinating in a very sad sort of way.
But another feature of these romance scams, of course, was the massive hemorrhaging of money leaving accounts. And I didn't think that was possible. I thought maybe someone would get taken for $1,000 or something, or, plane fare. But we learned otherwise this year.
No, we had Shreya Dana, $450,000 in a cryptocurrency scam that started as a romance scam.
The other thing that stood out with Shreya was that she wasn't necessarily just handing over money into a crypto scam. They had set up a phony app that made it look like she was making money.
Shreya, how did this lead to a request for money? Did he ask you to help with the cancer treatments for his uncle or what?
No, so this was very sophisticated. So not for a second I thought I was giving this guy any money. So here's how it started. He started talking about shared hopes and dreams. Like he was serious and started talking about retirement plans. Very quickly he led on that he was really well-to-do. Like he was going to be able to retire in 1 or 2 years. What was my plan? I have a regular tech job. I told him that was not in the realm of possibility for me. At which point he said, dream bigger. I'm here. Now that I'm here, I make a lot of money trading cryptocurrency. I could teach you. And then I was like, I'm not really interested. But then as he kept talking more and more about shared dreams, about how nice it would be to have this freedom and flexibility to retire earlier, travel more together. One of our common hobbies was traveling. I had taken 2 years off to just travel not off, but as a digital nomad to travel the country. So we talked a lot about traveling. So I decided I would learn. So he said, oh, it's completely okay. Start small. It's your own account. It's your money. I'm just going to teach you what kind of trades I make. So he sent me this link to this app. And I thought I downloaded what I thought was SoFi, the publicly listed bank crypto trading platform. But turns out it was the Mirror app.
So just for our listeners who are listening, you're saying that this person directed you to an app to invest in on a platform that was itself completely fraudulent, but very, very believable.
Nothing about it was real. It just looked very real to me. It had customer service, all the branding, all the logos, everything that you would think of. And the first couple of times, I put in $1,000, 1,000 became 1,250. I could bring all my money back to my bank. So the money went from my bank to Coinbase to this exchange. The fact that Coinbase let me transfer to this exchange made me feel like, okay, this is okay. It's Sophie's cryptocurrency platform. And the fact that I could transfer back from this exchange to Coinbase to my bank account the first couple of times really helped me feel like this is real and this is my money in my account. And what a nice person. He's just teaching me how to accelerate my retirement plans. That's how the money part of it started. But I never thought I was giving him my money. I thought it was my money in my own account. And this had 2-factor authentication and everything behind it too. So
This sounds like it was a really sophisticated scam overall.
Yes.
You could transfer the money that you made to your bank account and you actually saw the money there?
Mhm.
Well, that reminds me of Three Card Monte, the way that they play these tricks on the street where you win, and then they flip a switch and you start losing. What happened in this process? So I'm guessing you didn't keep winning all the time?
No, here's the thing. So the first couple of transactions, I got my money back, and then he started telling me that there's these things called large stable notes, which in crypto world mean something like a investment opportunity that's short-lived, and I needed to build a certain amount of capital in this trading account, this crypto trading account, so that I could take advantage of it. So I started putting in more of my savings into this crypto trading account, and he would set up, like, at night, he would set up times where he would be like, okay, now we trade. He'll tell me exactly what trades to make. So buy this much for five minutes, so he'd tell me what to do, and I would do exactly that in the app, and I would see my money multiply. Like I would see like, okay, I put in 20,000 today, it became, 28,000. So, and what happened was, after a while, I did not start putting it back in my bank account. He encouraged me to build the balance up so that I could make bigger trades. I realized it was a scam when, after I had built up a lot of capital and made a lot of gains, I lost 450,000.
Well, I guess the key takeaway here when you talk about these kinds of scams is money. But then again, of course, there are some people that will tell you that's a problem in relationships as well.
Well, I don't know. I think that, it is a problem in relationships, especially when one person has more money than the other. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about somebody who seemed to be creating a situation of trust where it became possible to steal a sizable amount of money. And it seems as though he was working on that from day one.
Yeah, and it just goes to show that they were intelligent people. They were well educated. They were not really just completely naive. That shows exactly how vulnerable anyone is to this sort of scam, or scams in general.
This year we had some topic experts who came in handy.
No, they sure did. One in particular was Dan Simons, who wrote the book Nobody's Fool. And he was talking about how people tend not to ask a lot of questions. They tend to believe what's in front of them and never think about, what am I not seeing?
So I think if there's one big point here, it's that it's really easy to look at a scam from the outside and say, yeah, the person who fell for it, they were gullible, they didn't spot the red flags they should have. But in reality, we all can be targeted because all forms of deception take advantage of how we think and reason by default in naturally good ways. So I think one thing that we try and focus on is, what is it that leads us to be deceived, by looking at commonalities across many forms of deception, as opposed to going into depth and looking at why somebody fell for a particular scam.
He was a great guest and his book was excellent. If you like the subject matter of the show, I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one of the better episodes this year, and that's saying a lot because we had a lot of very interesting people on. Dan Simon really made me think twice about the psychology of being scammed, because it seems to me like it to go back to the addiction idea, there's something about going down the rabbit hole that is kind of appealing or unavoidable for some people. They got to touch this hot stove. I don't know.
Well, what Dan was talking about is how when you're presented with something that is either very different than something you're used to or completely in line with the way you believe about something, you have a tendency not to look behind it. You have a tendency to accept it, that your mind is also trying to be very efficient. And sometimes the fastest answer is, in your mind, the best answer, and it may not be.
Yeah, and there's also a strong element of wish fulfillment that we say pretty often. If something sounds too good to be true, it is. And that's easy to say if you're looking at that externally. But for a lot of people, if something sounds too good to be true, That is really tempting. That is the stove that they want to touch. Another expert we had on was David Myman.
David Myman kind of scared the shit out of Adam, I think, because of the whole driver's license thing.
In late 2020, the beginning of 2021, we started to see how things were exploding and diffusing all around the country. And of course, one of the things that we've seen playing a very important role in the diffusion of those applications was the fake driver licenses that the criminals were able to manufacture very cheaply, very quickly, in very high quality. In many of the applications, we've seen the criminals presenting a driver license, a fake driver license with an identity on it. And we've seen how they used the driver license to simply type in and record all the information they needed to record on the Department of Labor, right, of all the relevant states' websites, and simply getting improved in very high rate. We started to see criminals selling tutorials of how to bypass some of the security mechanism that many states embraced and deployed in the context of their verification process. And we started shouting all over the place, hey, these guys know how to bypass this company's security mechanism and that company's security mechanism. And unfortunately, we didn't get too much attention to our calls.
I think one of the biggest questions I have, and I know it's not really possible to get inside every scammer's head, but what was motivating them between identity theft and the government program scams and the like?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they want money.
But what about the guys doing the tutorials and the like?
So those guys were doing tutorials. You have to understand, I mean, at this point, and even earlier, right, when we were talking about 2020, we were talking about a very sophisticated supply chain. Mm-hmm. So we're not talking about the teenager who are looking to just kill some time, and so they submit this fraudulent application trying to get some money from the government. No, we're not there anymore, and we weren't there in 2020. We were experiencing the operation of very sophisticated supply chains, which had access to our identities, took our identities, manufactured fake driver licenses with the criminal images, bypassing all the security mechanisms you can imagine in order to get this money. So profit is the number one reason for why these guys are doing this. Now, you do have folks who are simply there for the thrill. What we're seeing out there, the amount of money we're seeing out there, we are talking about folks doing this for profit. It's easy. There's really no deterrence right now. So the probability that they will be caught for their operation and go to jail is relatively low. In terms of potential profits, these guys can make millions of dollars and invest not a whole lot of time in the operation.
And if you're listening, guys out there, and you're going to go and try your hand at some of these crimes, just remember that David and the whole crew at What the Hack get 25% of everything you bring in. So we'll take that via Venmo or through Bitcoin.
Wait, only 25%? Come on.
Last time we tried to take more, we ended up almost becoming violent criminals again. So no.
It's a surprisingly low-tech thing, but so much of your identity is tied to just a little rectangular piece of plastic.
Well, and if you have someone's driver's license, you can do something like steal their vacant lot on the Atlantic Ocean.
That you could do.
My least favorite thing this year was part of my favorite episode, which was I called Travis. Do you remember what I said to you, Travis, when I was on my way home from New Jersey the second time?
I don't think I can use the exact language on the show.
Yes, you can. You can always be bleeped. Adam needs to hear it.
I think...
Don't get me fired.
Replace the hack in What the Hack with the F word.
I think what I said was, I quit. I'm done.
Yeah.
But yet, here you are.
So what happened was Adam calls and he's like, it happened again. What happened? Well, we should start at the beginning. Test, 1, 2, 1, 2, testing. Hello, testing, 1, 2. Hello. Boom, boom, boom. Pow, pow.
So I have a property in Manahawkin, New Jersey. It's 100 linear feet on the ocean. It's vacant because the house was destroyed by Hurricane Sandy. And it's been in our families for many years. It was purchased back in 1983. And after Hurricane Sandy, the property's been vacant. I got a call from my co-owner, and we both agreed that we would list the property and that he would contact a local broker because he grew up in the area. And he called back to me and said, the property's already listed.
Well, first of all, Adam likes a scam the way a fat kid likes cake. And he, so this thing was spiritual catnip. Sorry to mix my metaphors, but he was really excited. I got a call from Adam, as I often do, and occasionally he'll say, Friedlander, or he'll say something, but this time you said, I got scammed, or I'm getting scammed. Or,
you're going to love this, Beau. You're going to love this.
I think that is what he said. You're going to love this. It was like a Men's Warehouse ad, but it was for us. And so Adam calls me and says, there's someone's trying to steal the property in Manahawkin. I actually, I like to say that he was like, you must go to New Jersey and you must do this. But honestly, I volunteered because I thought I was the second coming of Dateline, going to go down there and catch the criminal.
I was pretty excited because I realized we could actually use this for the show.
Testing 1, 2. Hello. And I go to the place to get a recording. Hey man, how are you? Hey, good, how are you? Now, how does this work? I mean, that's the big question. Normally, when you're going to sell a property, call a realtor and they do all the MLS stuff, which is the listing that makes it appear on Zillow and Realtor.com and Redfin and all the other places. And honestly, I've sold a few properties and it's a mystery to me how it works, but it works. And I also have to say, I've never had to pass any kind of identity authentication. Never.
We went to the FBI. We contacted the realtor. We let the realtor know that they should leave the listing up because we didn't want to tip off the scammer that we knew what was going on. Yeah. And the FBI came back after an initial investigation. They said, really not sure there's a lot that we can do, but it's up to you. You're the property owner. So if you want to pull the listing and relist it or do it's your property. Do whatever you think is the right thing to do. So we pull down the listing. We then talk about officially listing the property. And lo and behold, I get a call from a second realtor who asks me if I'm Adam Levin. I go, yes, I am. And he said, well, didn't you just list your property with me? And I said, no, I did not list my property. Who are you?
And the story tracks very similar to the first one. I meet the realtor on the beach.
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
What's your name? Beau.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
So this is it, huh?
So this is the lot.
Now, this place is pretty cool, I got to say. My first thought is, why is Adam selling this? The guy tells me about it. And then we go and we sit in his car. We call the guy.
Call him in.
Yeah, call him.
Please leave your message for 407.
Bupkis, crickets. He goes, go. I go. I drive 5 hours. I get there. He hasn't told me that they pulled the listing. Now, what do you think the criminal's going to think when he sees the listing's gone? Jig is up, right? You think he's going to answer the phone from the realtor? No. I could have killed him.
Now, without question, I think the biggest issue here is how do the people responsible for selling our properties confirm they're actually talking to us? I mean, we ran into this problem and we were trying to convince the realtors I was the real Adam Levin.
So I Googled Adam Levin, and and then I emailed the real Adam Levin and said, hey, I just got off the phone with my attorney. He said I need to make 100% sure that you are who you say you are, right? Because I'm not going to make the same mistake twice, right? So I Googled him. I Googled the books he's wrote. I Googled his podcast, your podcast. I Googled, just his information in general. So I made a question sheet for myself. So I made like 5 or 6 questions on this question sheet that I was going to ask him when he called me in the morning, and I was just going to rapid fire these questions at him to make sure that he was, it was like who were your parents? Where did you go pre-grad? Where'd you go post-grad? You wrote a book. What was the logo on the book? And it was like, I made sure that I was going to be asking the right questions, and he answered them like that really quick. So I knew he was.
Do you mean the thumbprint
with the lock in the middle of it? Yes, that one. Yes. So I wanted to make
smart.
Yeah. So and
he passed.
Oh, he passed. He passed flying colors.
Now?
Absolutely.
Wait, here's my question.
Yes.
Pretend for a second I'm fake Adam Levin.
Okay.
I go online. I figure out that his parents are.
Right.
I look at his book. How do you know you still don't have fake Adam Levin?
Well, that's why I. No, it's okay. So that's why I wanted to ask him these questions quick.
Just like bang.
Yeah.
No Google time.
No, exactly. I need him to go grab a phone
and did he do super fast?
He went really fast, yeah. And I
All right,
said,
so you're satisfied. I can tell you I've known him for 12 years. You have the real Adam Levin. I know he owns that property. I remember when the house got eaten up by a hurricane.
By Sandy.
Yeah. So that's all.
No, we were very lucky to catch this thing in the early stages of practically a non-crime crime, because we caught it and pulled the listing off the market before someone sold it out from under me.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't practically a non-crime crime. It was a non-crime crime.
The other thing that stood out there too is I know we've been trying to get a scammer on the phone for a while, and that was the event that Beau, you finally got to.
Hello?
Hey, Adam, it's how are you?
I'm good. And you?
Good. Yeah, so I was just wondering if you had time to discuss the one offer that came in.
Okay, yes, let's do that. Let's talk.
And then we call the guy up, and I'm so relieved when he answers, and he sounds not like he would be friends with the realtor. It just doesn't sound like this. It sounds like a different walk of life.
Yeah, going to like how many days closing?
So they can close in 30 to 45 days. That's pretty standard.
Hard to hear. He's intentionally down talking, low talking, saying as few words as possible, knowing full well that anything he says will be recorded probably.
All right, no problem then.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
I was very excited about that.
And he really did sound like a scammer, didn't he?
Well, I still feel bad about, suggesting that family realtors that we met were actually the scammers, but I was just beside myself with like whodunit. It was very exciting. And it was, I kind of preferred the idea that I was in the room with the scammers and that I might get shot and turned into humble pie.
Well, Beau, come on now. To be fair, we do accuse each other of being a scammer pretty much every episode.
Or accidentally giving scammers how-to lessons.
We had some journalists in here. We had Kashmir Hill talking about the dangers of facial recognition technology.
So from your book, it sounds like there were companies that actually had either the resources or the technology or both to do facial recognition, but didn't because of either legal or moral implications of it. Did that just open things up for Clearview?
When I first heard about Clearview AI, a lot of people, thought it was a technological breakthrough that they did this in Google and Facebook and decided that they didn't want to release it, that it was too dangerous or too legally risky. And what has happened in the last few years is open source technology and much more sharing of kind of these computer techniques. So for somebody who has just, some technical savvy, they can take these powerful AI technologies. And if you, have the computing power and the ability to store a lot of data, I mean, you can do really radical things. And so that's what happened with Clearview AI. It's the kind of building blocks were there. And it was just a matter of being willing to cross that ethical line and put this all together. And they did.
So we had Major Garrett from CBS, who has the podcast Agent Betrayal, which is the story of Bob Hansen, the highest ranking FBI official ever to be prosecuted successfully for selling secrets to the Russians.
You're familiar with the phrase culture eats strategy for breakfast. I don't think I've seen a better example. The fact that the FBI culture was so lax and complacent about their security, but it is a culture thing.
And part of the culture was a grandiosity.
Yeah.
About themselves. Well, you're the FBI.
We don't do things like that.
We don't do no.
But we also don't even misrecruit. Like we
never blow it in recruitment. We never blow it in promotion. We never blow it in our way of moving people around or understanding the criminal mind or understanding why people go bad. And we don't misunderstand anything. And that grandiosity created, I think, a very significant blind spot.
And one thing, I think Nicole Perlroth sort of wins the MVP here too, because she was in her third trimester of pregnancy, I think 8.5 months pregnant when we were speaking to her.
One of the things that you talk about in the epilogue of your book is something that we often discuss and call security by design. You don't call it that, but you do discuss the mission crucial thing that everyone needs to be thinking about in the industrial sector and military. To build security from the very beginning, from the very first line of code you write, you're thinking about security and keeping zero-day exploits out. That ship has sailed already for AI. Hasn't it?
Yeah. I'll tell you something interesting that's not in the book, which is I would ask zero-day brokers I came into contact to for the book. At the end of our interview, I'd always ask the same question. Is there anything you haven't been able to break? And one of them who's in the book, Adriel Desotel, said, yeah, there actually is one. Green Hill Software. I think they're based in Santa Barbara. You should talk to them. So I reached out to them and I thought, this will be good for my epilogue, female journalist drives down the coast on Highway 1 to Santa Barbara to the sort of Shangri-La of secure by design. They never got back to me, but then my book came out and I heard from them a lot saying basically, why weren't we in this book and why haven't we talked yet? Well, the guy who runs Green Hill is Dan O'Dowd. So he's become famous recently as being the guy who has been calling out Elon and Tesla for self-driving cars.
Yes.
Yeah. So his whole thing was, listen, Nicole, I wish I could tell you there was some magic to our software, why it's so secure. But it's really because one of our first customers was the Pentagon. They wanted us to design an operating system for other missile delivery systems. And so in writing this operating system, we were moving very slowly. We were operating almost like a monk-like focus on security and minimalism and stripping down the code to its fundamental basics, always with the question, am I checking my work? Because if this software has any bugs in it, then this missile delivery system could be used against us. So with that use case in mind, we designed the software and it ended up getting the highest security rating from the NSA and others. And he was saying, this is the approach. Essentially, we're never going to take it to everything. We can't roll back on Windows and most commercial software, but this is the approach we should be taking to things like autonomous vehicles, the power grid, our pipeline network, our water storage, et cetera, and treatment. And so I'm not surprised he's been out there on this campaign calling out Elon's self-driving car software. That is the future. I think
there are some systems that as a society would be great if we could have conversations and say, that is so sacred. We don't need artificial intelligence in our water treatment facilities. We don't need artificial intelligence in some parts of the pipeline. But anyway, that's just like a dream that will never happen.
You know, one of my favorite lines, takeaways from one of our shows was the show that we did with Michelle Dennedy.
Oh, I know what he's going to say. He's so obsessed. Go ahead.
I am. I love this line.
Well, so I will tell you something that is a bit controversial. And so I call it my panties rule. So
okay.
Now that I don't have a PR department, I get to call it what it is. So
that's right. Yeah.
I call it my panties rule. I say, make your passwords like your panties. Now you have to follow these 3 rules together. Make them exotic. So use weird passwords. Change them frequently. And that's where it gets controversial, because when you change them frequently, you have to keep them exotic.
Right.
Right. And don't share them with other people, because that's gross. Okay.
That's true.
So you have to follow them all in together, all those 3 rules.
Exotic, change them frequently, and don't share with others. I like that.
Because it's gross.
Because we're not talking about cyber hygiene here.
We're talking about good hygiene.
And we can't end the year without talking about the puppy scam.
That's right. The story that Holly brought us about her friend Carl.
Carl was scammed out of a few $100s trying to get a new puppy for him and his wife, who was going through some medical difficulties.
And even though at the end of the day it wasn't their life savings, the amount of time and effort and energy that they lost while going through all this was a lot.
But the episode had a surprise ending.
So, Holly, after all of this, did Carl and his wife ever get a dog?
No, they did not, sadly.
Oh.
And they were out the $200 to the puppy nanny, the $250 for the vet visit, the $300 for the initial deposit. So they were out $750. And where things stopped was the puppy nanny, and this is a key, the puppy nanny had a family emergency. His daughter had an accident and he had to go to the hospital. And so he was going to ship the puppy to them in care of a trucking company. Of course, the trucking company turned out to be non-existent, but the trucking company, because it was a big truck, they needed $1,100 for a special crate to put the puppy in to make sure that he traveled safely. And
it just gets worse and worse.
Well, and then if you go to the Better Business Bureau website, there are many, many times this special crate is brought up. It's part of the scam, and a lot of people end up paying for that. So when that came up, Carl put the brakes on and said, wait, we're getting taken here. This is going down a rabbit hole, and we're going to just keep throwing money at this thing. They stopped, and they looked up the shipping company, found out it wasn't real. They looked up the address, found out it wasn't real, tried to message people, and they didn't get any replies to their messages. And pretty soon they were blocked on the Instagram. You know, I looked up the Instagram recently, and today, like even yesterday, it wasn't blocked. Today, that Instagram account is down.
How's Carl's wife doing, by the way?
Oh, she's had multiple surgeries and she has more ahead of her. And so it would have been awesome to have this little dog for her. So I hope they find another dog that'll work.
And how are they emotionally?
You know, it's been a few weeks now. I think first it was kind of shock and then anger after that. And then, you know, kind of resigned at how things can go bad in the world.
All right, Holly, here's what I'm going to do because I feel terrible about this whole thing. Are you ready? I'm going to buy them a dog.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
I'm going to cry.
I mean, well, listen, Oprah gave away cars, so I figured buying a dog.
You get a dog, and you get a dog.
My dog just came in here when he announced that. He's excited too.
This is great. Thank you so much. I can't wait to share that news. So thank you.
Wow.
Holly, thank you so much. And thank Carl for giving you his story.
Holly, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. We thank you. We thank Carl and his wife, and we hope that she feels better soon. And it's been great getting to know you.
Thank you so much. I was happy to be here. I can't wait to tell him he's going to be the first phone call when we stop here. Guess what? I have great news. I just did the podcast, and Adam, he is going to get you guys a dog.
No.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God. How's this happening? Well, that's incredible. It's amazing. I'm gobsmacked here. So
I have no idea why Adam just decided to do this, but I just want to say, Adam, thank you. My husband and I are so grateful, and it is the most beautiful gift you could give us in our lives right now. It means so much to us. And I just wish I could say thank you in a million different ways, but I hope you know from the bottom of our heart, this is a life changer for us. And we so appreciate what you've done.
What the Heck with Adam Levin is available wherever you get your podcasts.
If you like it, consider rating us on your favorite podcast service or writing a review. What the Heck with Adam Levin is a production of Loud Tree Media. You can find us online at adamlevin.com and on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Adam K. Levin.
Behind every great meal is a person with a story to tell. Hear them on Culinary Characters Unlocked, the podcast that reveals the lives behind the food. Hosted by me, David Page, Emmy Award-winning journalist and creator of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, as I talk with everyone from culinary legends to mom-and-pop standouts about the creativity, grit, and passion that shape the food we love. Follow Culinary Characters Unlocked on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Behind every empire are the people history tried to forget. Lost Roman Heroes tells the stories of the remarkable characters who shaped Rome from its mythical beginnings to its final fall.
Each episode blends armchair storytelling, sharp historical insight, and a bit of humor to bring these lost figures to life. From generals to scientists, from rebels to empresses, from priests to politicians, these lost Roman heroes have one thing in common.
They stood up for civilization when the bad guys threatened, and in doing so, they changed the course of human history. If you're into history that's vivid, surprising, and deeply human, this show's for you.